think. My computer doesn't agree with me. Let's try again. Come on. Come on. Please. Can I please? Ah, there we go. Every time. Every time. And there's a big old poop on there. All right. We are here. We are ready. It is Friday. I'm very excited. So, happy Friday. Happy second week of 2024. I'm still having a hard time adjusting to that. I am doing better with writing 2024 on things and not writing the wrong year. But, it's a hard transition in January. Well, I was there. Now my computer has lost me again. I have no idea what's happening. It is spinning and spinning. There we go. Okay, I see myself now. So, as you can probably see, there's no Barb today. So, it's just me awkwardly close to the camera because I'm too lazy to get up and walk around the table. Anyway, it's just me. Barb is at her second retreat for the week. She hosted one earlier this week, and now she's a attendee. So she is getting all sorts of sewing done, I assume. Maybe next week we'll get to see what she's working on. I don't know if she's going to pop on or not. She's probably busy. I don't know what time the retreat starts, so I don't know what she's doing. But anyway, I'm going to try to look at you, but if you see me looking down, it's because I'm reading comments and checking in on everybody. So, all right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. So, today I kind of freezing SoCal. Listen, if you're going to come on here and tell me that you are freezing in SoCal, I'm going to laugh at you a little bit. What's your freezing weather? Cuz it's 34 here. And in Southern California, I don't think it gets that cold. Not 34 anyway. So, I'm calling your bluff, body. Oh. Hi, Nancy, who's not at work. Shh, I won't tell anybody. Nancy, an order of yours is waiting for the postman today. 25 degrees. Okay, Bonnie, I eat my words. I take that back. That is very cold for us and especially for SoCal. So I apologize. Take my apology. I'm so sorry about that because I can't even imagine when you're so used to having nice, like mild and warm weather to have 25 degrees. So I apologize. So you're not here for the weather. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything today, mostly around machines. And the reason that I want to talk about machines today, my husband is calling me. We've only been doing this for 3.5 years. He'll figure it out. So, the reason I want to talk about machines, it kind of all started because of this girl right here, Julia. Because when I was writing the pattern and getting ready to do the sew along, I wanted to make sure that everybody was successful. And that is always like what I'm here for. I am here to educate. That's what my channel is about. And I'm also here to make sure that you are successful in what you do. I want to teach you and I want to watch you make things and be happy making things. So I want to talk about machines more heavy duty versus domestic. I'm not going to get into like industrials or anything because that's not something I own. So I want to talk about machines and kind of the differences, but also how did we get here? As and by we I mean mostly me, like me, but you as bag makers. How did we get to this point um, where I'm kind of, I don't know how to say it. I'm not changing my patterns, but I guess I am in a way because of the options that we have now. So before we get into that, while you're all updating each other on your weather, and I'm sorry that some of you are freezing right now, we had a snowstorm and then we had rain and 40-degree weather because that's New York. So most of our snow is gone now. It's just chaotic and we're supposed to get more. I don't know what's happening. So I just want to go over like a couple of things, kind of like where just bleh. It's so much better when Barb's here. I don't know what it is about her presence that makes me speak clearly. I am going to go through a couple of like little housekeeping things, and then we're going to get into kind of the machine talk. And Kathy, I just saw your question. I'm shopping for a semi-industrial Juki versus Janome. That's kind of where we're going to get into. So hang in there. We're going to get into that type of conversation. It is Friday. So first thing I wanted to say is that thank you to all of you who have recently subscribed. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here from the beginning, thanks for sticking around. We hit 24,000 earlier this week. I'm very excited about that. I wanted 24 by 24, but it's totally fine. So I got 24 in early 24. So I'm always just trying to, get more followers and educate as many people as I can. So thank you if you've subscribed. If you're here and you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Go subscribe. Hit the button. It makes a big difference. So thank you for that. Court Club will be shipping in 2 weeks. So all of you who signed up by the end of December, who signed up for January shipment, your Court Club is going to be coming in 2 weeks. You'll be getting that notification, and just a little something extra in there for all of you. Nothing crazy, but just a little bonus, way to say thank you. If you sign up for Court Club at any point now until February 10th, you'll be in for February. We always do it by the 10th of the month. We just did it differently for January because we just got back into it. So that information's on the website. And if you're not sure of anything, just email me. So 2 more weeks. Court Club is coming, Kim. Don't you worry. Oh, and this is crazy to me. It's just one of those weird things. This month, like right now, is my 13th anniversary of officially being So Many Creations, the pattern writing company. I made bags prior to this, but this is my 13th anniversary. Next month, not next February. February is next month. Will be the 13th anniversary of my first ever pattern. So it's really crazy to me to think that 13 years ago I started on this. I'm still here. I'm still doing it. It's very exciting. I've never had a job this long, maybe because I just enjoy working for myself more than I enjoyed working for other people. But I can't say it's been 13 of like the most successful over the top years. You got to work at it, but it's been 13 years. So, all right, let's see here. Okay. Oh, this is just a silly little thing, but I just wanted to say this to all of you. If you are just having one of those days, one of those weeks, one of those months, whatever it is, go text one of your friends, give them a call, send them an email, whatever it is. I did that earlier this week because I was just having a moment, and it was somebody in the bag making community because I was having one of those like bleh, you know, kind of moments of myself, and I sent a text because I was like, I miss your face. I want to talk to you. And it was a lovely conversation, and it made my whole entire week. So if you're having one of those weeks, go talk to one of your friends you haven't talked to in a while. I promise it'll make your day. So before I see there's already questions. I'm gonna answer those, and then we're gonna start. I just want to preface this because we have some new followers, and somehow I think some people are getting the wrong impression of me and my channel. They're not quite understanding what we do here, and so I want to help them to, get in a better position, get in a better understanding of what we do at So Many Creations. Most of you guys know, but in case you're new here or you're tuning in and you're like, I don't know what's happening here. My channel is about positivity and education. It is about me. I love to teach. That is something I've been doing for 19 years. 19 years I've been teaching, which is also really crazy. It makes me feel old, and I'm not old, but to say that I've been doing something for 19 years feels really, that's crazy. That's like almost 2 decades. That's a lot of time. But I enjoy teaching. I enjoy writing patterns. I love selling supplies. I love being able to pull things together. That's what we do here. That is what we are all about. I'm not here for the negativity and the bullying and the nonsense. That's not what we do here. That will get you an automatic delete. I don't deal with that here. But one of the other things that somehow people are thinking, and I'm not going to apologize because I know that this is not my intention. I know it's not what I do. I'm not here for a sales pitch. The reason that I tell you where to get things and what I'm sewing on and what I'm doing is because if I don't, you're going to ask me. So if I don't tell you that the court came from my website, you're going to ask, and I'm going to have to tell you anyway. If I don't tell you what sewing machine I'm sewing on, you're going to ask because you want to know. So we're not here for a sales pitch. I'm not here to try to sell you anything. Yes, I have a website where I sell things, but machines are not one of them. I talk about the Janome machines that I have for a few reasons. Number one, I do work with the company. I am a Janome maker. I have never denied that. I have been a Janome maker since 2018. I've never said I wasn't. So, yes, I do talk about those machines because those are what I sew on. If you want me to tell you all the benefits and features of a Bernina 570, I can't do that. Somebody else can do that, but I can't because that's not the machine that I have. I sew on the machines that I like and I talk about them so that you know what's going on. And also, it is in a contract that I talk about the machines that I'm sewing on. So I don't care what machine you buy. If you want my opinion, I will give you my opinion. But if you want to go buy a different machine, I'm not here to judge you or be mad. I don't tell you how to spend your money. So if you've ever thought for some reason that me saying I sew on a Janome HD9 is me telling you to go buy one, that's not the point here. You're missing the point. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. And today is the same thing. I can only talk about what I know. I cannot tell you every single machine that is out there. It's just not something I have. I don't own every single machine. So I hope we're clear on that. I hope we can move forward. But, sometimes people vent their frustrations at me and I don't really understand why because that's not what I'm about. So that's all. So let's get going here. Let's talk about machines. So I want to talk about like heavy duty machines and things like that. I do want to get into kind of that versus domestic, but I want to give you a little bit of a backstory in case you don't know it or in case you forgot or just because it's my channel. I can talk about whatever I want. So I have been making bags since 2005. That is a long time. I've been making bags longer than I've been married. And when I started making bags, it was not for a business. I was not intending on writing patterns. Pattern writing was nowhere on my horizon whatsoever. Pattern writing came 6 years into that journey. I was making bags for fun. I was making bags because I enjoyed it. And I started selling those bags. So I do have that kind of experience in selling bags. But again, I never got into like, I'm going to be a pattern writer. That's what I want to do. That might be different for some people. That was not the case for me. So, in doing what I was doing back in 2005, YouTube was just started. YouTube was like, I don't even remember ever looking on YouTube. Like, I can't even remember the first time I did, but it was definitely not back then. There weren't videos on bag making, there weren't tutorials. The bag making designers that were out there were limited. There wasn't a lot of options. My first bags came from uh, the cabinet in Joann's, where you sit and look through the catalog and pick out what you want. You go buy a Butterick or a Vogue or one of those patterns. You know, those tissue paper patterns, the ones that never go back in the envelope after you've used them. If you were not traumatized by that, congrats, but also you haven't been sewing long enough. It's something that I think we all have to experience at some point so we can appreciate what's out there now. But those are the patterns that I sewed because those are the resources. I bought hardware from Joann's. I bought the Dritz plastic hardware, occasionally maybe a piece of like silver metal hardware. Those are the things that I would get because that's what we had. We didn't have all the websites that we have now with supplies of cork and zippers and vinyl and all this like cool hardware. There are literally websites that specialize in one single thing and then have like a million options on it. You can go find just a zipper website or a hardware website. We did not have that as an option. And if you've been making bags for a long time, you probably remember. And I can see it in my earlier bags, which luckily, question mark, my mother saved a lot of them. We looked at those like a couple years ago and they're comical to me, but it's also nice to see how much I've grown. But because of all that, the resources that I had were based around domestic machines. Heavy duty machines weren't a thing. Industrial machines were in factories. People at home didn't have industrial machines. People at home didn't have heavy duty machines because those were not a common thing. If they were around, nobody was really using them. So when you're using a domestic machine, you know what your limitations are because you know what that machine can handle. So when you're doing something like that for a long time and then you transition into pattern writing, you take all that with you. And so in the beginning, when I first started writing patterns, I had no idea what it was going to turn into. It was a side hustle. I did it when I still had a job. It was fun. It was something where I took all those notebooks of the bags that I had been making and selling, And then I transitioned those into patterns because that's what I had. So all of my like first year or two probably of patterns were bags that I had already sold. All of those were made from cotton. All of those were made on a domestic. For a long time before I upgraded, thanks to my husband, my boyfriend at the time, he was a good boyfriend. Um, excuse me. He bought me my first computerized machine. It was a Husqvarna Interlude. I loved that machine. I wore that. I used that machine until it didn't want to work anymore. But prior to that, I had a $99 Walmart machine. It was a gift from my grandparents in high school for Christmas. That's what I sewed on. So if I had known back then what the future would hold, it would have been, well, it would have been mind blowing to know that there were going to be so many options: cork, vinyl, fancy zippers, heavy duty machines. I didn't know any of that. So when I transitioned into writing patterns, without intention, I became known as the person whose patterns were made for quilters because I was a quilter first. I used my ruler, my rotary cutter. There were no pattern pieces in the bags that I was making. So I wasn't including those in my patterns because I didn't know that that was going to become a thing. I didn't know there was going to become this hot topic on online, on the line. My husband always says that, online, about pattern pieces versus not pattern pieces, cut and measure and cut patterns versus having pieces to print out, because that wasn't a thing. That wasn't something that we did. I used my ruler and rotary cutter because it made sense to me. I made patterns that made sense to quilters. I wrote patterns that could be made on a domestic machine. So fast forward as I continue doing this, that's become my thing. A lot of plain and simple bags without zippers, maybe an occasional plastic number 3 zipper that you could get in a quilt shop. I didn't have number 5s, I didn't have the metal looking zippers. There was no cork. I never touched a piece of vinyl. Like, that was years later. I did a little bit and then I was like, I don't really like this too much. My machine is not really happy with this. I wasn't working in the stuff that we have now. So when you start something, that kind of follows you. And so as I started designing patterns and getting more into patterns that had hardware and using cork, we've had cork now, I think it's been 7 years. I think this year is like the seventh year we've had cork. I could be wrong, it could be longer. I lose track of time a lot. But when you're doing those kinds of things, now you're known as something. You're the person who makes domestic friendly patterns. Don't change that. So every pattern that I have made, all the way up until literally today, every pattern has been domestic friendly. So now let's fast forward to 2018, 19, somewhere around there. I'm at a quilt show. I'm at International Quilt Show in Houston. I break one of the handles on my bag. I think it got stuck on something when we were setting up, and it was driving me crazy. And the Janome booth was like right down from me. I had had a Janome machine. I was comfortable sewing on it. So I was like, I'm just going to go over there, ask these people, tell them, like, I have a Janome. I swear I'm not just some random person. I'm a vendor. Can I use one of your machines to fix this handle? And the gentleman there was like, sure. Why don't you try this one? And he puts me in front of this HD9. And I was like, I don't know what this is. It looks very basic, but it also looks kind of intense. Then he was like, oh, it's just a straight stitch machine. It's heavy duty. It sews leather. It's fantastic. And I sewed for all of like 30 seconds. And I was like, this machine is awesome. I want this. I want to take this home with me. And I said to Eric, I want to buy this machine. And he's like, then buy it. Like, it's your money, buy it. And I took it home and it was intimidating. I kept breaking the thread. I was using thin thread. I was not having a great time with it. And I thought, did I waste my money? Did I just waste my money buying this machine that I didn't need? I already have many machines. I don't know a lot of us that have one machine, but here I am with this. And then finally one day I said, I have to do something with this. I sat down and I just sewed for a whole weekend with nothing but that machine. And I was like, oh, this is what it's all about. This machine is so much different from my domestic. This machine does so many more things that my domestic machine doesn't, but also does so many less things. So, in working with that, I got really used to it and I kind of don't want to work on any other machine. Once you start sewing on something outside of your norm and you fall in love with it, that's all that you want. whether that is an industrial or a semi-industrial, whatever it is, and you're finding that everything is easier, that's all that you want. That's all that you want to do. So that is kind of where we came as of today with like what machines, I got crazy hair going on, what machines we have, what machines we use, and also what materials we choose. So what I wanted to talk about today, and I see some of the questions. I'm going to go back and look at some of them, asking like, what about this versus this? Please remember, I don't have every machine. I have not sewn on every single machine. I cannot tell you, here's a list of every machine, here's the pros and cons. I don't have all of that experience that maybe some of you wish that I did. I mean, it would be awesome, but I just don't own every machine that there is. So there are definitely there are definitely some similarities between your heavy duty machines and also between domestics. So let's kind of talk about really the difference between the two, because I don't know that everybody fully understands the difference, and also how to choose materials to make a bag work on your machine. Okay. So when I say domestic, when I say that my pattern is domestic friendly or that you can make it on a domestic, what I mean is pretty much what every one of us has. And there's so many variations. You know that. So whether you have a Bernina, a Pfaff, a Janome, a Husqvarna, there's a million different, options there. And your domestic machine, when I say domestic, is your everyday machine that has a needle that goes not only forward and back, but it goes side to side. It has a ton of feet. It usually comes with lots of feet, but then there's even more options. You have straight stitching and decorative stitching. You have options for every bell and whistle you can imagine. You can get a scissor cutter. You can get, the foot that lifts up and down. You can get a scissor function on your foot pedal. You can embroider with it. There's so many different things. So, as of today, still to this day, every one of my patterns, all the way up to Julia, which is my latest, is tested on a domestic. I also sew a lot, and this is what I sew on at home, and I also have one here. I sew on my HD9, and that is a heavy duty machine. That is the Janome version of a straight stitch mechanical heavy duty machine. So, as far as I know, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know and I can tell, there's four different kind of options in the heavy duty that are like the ones that really stand out to me. There's the Janome HD9, there is the Baby Lock Accomplish, and I think that's the one that Shelly has. There is the Juki, the TL 2010, and I know Juki. When you think of heavy duty straight stitch machines, I think Juki is the one that everyone thinks of because they have a lot of options. And there's also the Brother PQ 1500. I have sewn on the Brother. Obviously, I've sewn on the Janome. I have not sewn on the Baby Lock. And I used to own, I guess technically I still do, a Juki straight stitch machine, but it is many, many, many years old. Um, Probably Eric bought it for me when I was quilting. I'm going to say it's probably from like 2006, maybe 2007 ish. I don't remember the model, but I know that it is a straight stitch heavy duty machine. And so when I say heavy duty, I am not talking about industrials. I'm not talking about the industrial machines that you see like Lauren from Mormino, so on. I'm talking about a domestic, or excuse me, a home machine, something that you can move. It doesn't have to be in a set table like an industrial. It is something that is portable. It goes forward and backward. It sometimes maybe has a scissor button, or it might have like a little extra feature here and there. It's not going to embroider. It's not going to do fancy stitches. The needle does not move from left to right. The feet options, there are some, but it's not going to have all those options because it doesn't move left to right. So when we talk about that, some people in our bag making community kind of use them interchangeably. They might say this pattern was made on a domestic, but they mean a heavy duty machine. And I disagree with that because I think that they are two different categories, very different categories. So I don't agree that they're the same, but I think the reason they get lumped together sometimes is because when you think industrial has a table that it is attached to and it's a unit. It has to be used together. The knee lift and the foot pedal are all part of the table. You're not going to take your industrial to your retreat for the weekend. That's not going to happen. Your industrial gets in one place and that's kind of where it stays. They're heavy and big, and it's definitely not that type of machine. But an HD9 or a heavy duty machine of some kind, I can take that with me. It's heavy. It's definitely heavy, but I can pick that machine up and I can take it with me. I can put it in the classroom. I can take it to a retreat. So I think a lot of us know that there's a difference, but a lot of people use it interchangeably. And that is something that kind of bugs me a little bit because I don't want to see you set up for failure. I don't want to tell you that this bag that I made is 100% domestic friendly. You'll have no problems. Then you take it to your actual domestic machine and you're breaking needles, you're skipping stitches, your machine's having a meltdown. So I actually do test on a domestic. Not all domestics are created equal. I'm well aware of that. Not all operators are created equal. And what I mean, I have somebody, I've told the story before, I'm tell it again. I have somebody who owns the same exact machine as me. And this was many years ago. It was a different machine, but it was still a domestic. I was showing her how to make one of my patterns that is a little bit on the thicker side. I said it will work, but here's the things you need to do. Do this foot, this stitch length, put your needle in this position, and you'll be fine. It wouldn't work for her. How can the same exact machine work differently for two different people? Well, what's the difference? It's the person. So the machine might be the issue, but also the person operating it. Sometimes we're scared and sometimes we don't want to push the machine. We're afraid. My thing is, what's the worst that's going to happen? I break a needle, or yeah, maybe I throw the timing off and I have to take it in to have it repaired. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to do anything so catastrophic that the machine will just never work again. It might have to be repaired. It might cost me money, but I'm not going to actually break the machine into pieces. I'm just going to push its limits. It's going to get mad and it's over. So I just wanted to kind of clarify, like, when we're talking about a domestic, I 100% test everything on domestics. But if it's my turn to just sit and sew, like when we sew at the virtual next weekend, or if I'm at a retreat, I'm using a heavy duty machine because I know that the heavy duty machine is not going to give me problems if I don't press my seams well. It's not going to give me any issues if I don't cut something out of the seams that normally I would. I know that I can go through more layers. I know that the motor is stronger. I know that it's faster. I know that it reacts differently to all the layers. So when we were getting ready to do the sew along, and at that point, it was a mystery, but I had said that you could leave these pieces off. These are the E pieces. They definitely can be left off to give you a different look, but it won't change the usage of the bag. But right here, this is a lot of thickness. This is 2 layers of cork right here. There is a zipper underneath. There's cork here, cork on the back, and then there's also this piece right here. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of cork, I would say, at some of these intersections. I know that my domestic can handle 6 layers of cork. I don't know if your domestic can. I don't know if you are comfortable sewing through that. So I know that if I make that bag on my heavy duty machine, I'm not stressing about that. I'm not worried about getting through all of those layers. So the reason I also wanted to talk about this topic is because as we grow as bag makers, as I grow as a pattern designer, I don't want to be pigeonholed into doing only one thing. I could spend the rest of my career making tourist tote bags in cotton and sewing them on a domestic with cotton thread and just calling it a day and being happy with that. And that would be totally fine. And I don't care if that's what you want to do. But as a designer, there are designs and things that I want to try out that are not always going to be as domestic friendly as other things. There's going to be things that are going to be pushing the limits. There are going to be patterns that would be better suited for a heavy duty machine. And I want to have those options. I want to be able to do that and to not be stuck in one spot. I have spent 13 years designing patterns on my domestic. I will still sew on my domestic, but I also want to have options. I want to kind of, be able to move forward and do different things. And I have a pattern. It's probably, I'm saying probably, going to be the next pattern that I release at some point this winter or spring. And I think I figured out finally after 2 years, I think it maybe even close to 3 years, why I've been dragging my feet so much on this pattern. And it's because I can make it on my domestic, but it's not happy about it. I can make it on my heavy duty machine so much better. It gives me such better options. It makes me feel more comfortable. I'm not nervous putting it through. And so I want to be able to release those patterns. I want to be able to move forward and grow as a bag maker. But let's just say that you don't want a heavy duty machine. You have no interest in it. You are happy with your domestic. You spent a lot of money on it because I know sewing machines in general are never going to be cheap. You are not going to get a fancy domestic machine for like 500 bucks. Sewing machines are, and I really haven't shopped for one in a while. I'm going to say $1,000 to infinity. You can spend, I have a machine sitting on my shelf right there that is upwards of $20,000. I did not pay for that. I just want to be clear. I'm not rich. But because of all the things that it does and because of the embroidery unit and all that stuff, that machine is very expensive. That is not something for everybody. It's not something even for me. So those there's so many options out there. And heavy duty machines aren't cheap either. I'm well aware of that. And I also know that the one that I sew on, the HD9, is also probably the most expensive out of the four that I listed. Um, the Baby Lock, I don't know for sure, but I know the Brother. I know the pricing for the Brother and the pricing for a lot of the Jukies. They're less. I understand that that HD9 is expensive. It's not for everyone. So you have to choose what's in your budget. You have to choose what works for you. But because I get on so many tangents, I lose track of everything. Anyway, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm rambling today. If you're here, you don't have to stay, but this is just what I do. This is what I do when I'm alone because there is no Barb here to interrupt me. Um, I want to explore things, but I also don't want you to feel like well, now she's doing patterns and I can't sew them. I have a domestic and I can't make any of these new patterns. I don't want you to feel that way. What I want you to think about, and we're going to talk a little bit about materials, and then I promise I'm going to go through all of your questions and make sure I did not miss any. I see them popping up on my screen. I'm just trying not to look at them. When it comes to your options, you don't have to buy a heavy duty or an industrial or anything like that if you don't want to, if you don't have room, if you don't have the budget. That is not what I'm saying at all. This is not like an announcement coming from me saying, well, all patterns going forward are going to be super thick and heavy and you can't sell my patterns. I don't want to do that. I don't want anybody to feel that way. But something that I think we all need to learn as bag makers is how to take the skills and all the things that we've learned and put them into our brain and really think about it before we sit down and sew. So I'm going to show you, and I'm just using this as an example because it's here. This is the bag that I want to make. I want to make this bag out of some vinyl that I bought. I want to use waterproof cotton or canvas for everything. I don't want to use any cotton fabric. I want to sew this bag out of all of the heaviest materials possible. And then I show it to you and you're like, either there's two trains of thought. Either, well, she did it, so I can do it, and then you can't do it on your machine. Or you look and go, well, my machine won't handle that. I guess I can't make that pattern. Why can't you make this out of cotton? Why can't you make adjustments? Why can't you cut your interfacing out of the seams? That is something that we kind of need to get on board with, I think, as we get further into like our bag making careers, is don't feel intimidated because I watched a video where somebody sewed a bag out of these things and my machine can't handle it. Use your brain power that you have and adjust it. Make it work for you so you can sew it on your machine. That's something that I get a lot also with cork patterns. So let's say I have a cork wallet and somebody's like, but I have cotton. Can I make it out of cotton? My answer is never going to be no. I'm not going to tell you, no, you can't make it out of cotton, but you might have to adjust some things. You might have to sit down with your notebook and sketch some things out. You might have to add seam allowances so you can hide raw edges. There's always a way. There's always a way, but how much work do you want to put into it? So when you're choosing materials, cork is a very domestic friendly material. My machine and every domestic I have ever had will sew through up to 6 layers of cork without batting an eye. I've even gone through more But when I'm going through more, I'm making sure my needle is fresh. I'm making sure that my thread's a little heavier. I'm increasing my stitch length. Maybe I'm hand turning a little bit just because if the needle's going to hit something funny, I'd rather feel it with my hand than to be pushing the foot pedal and hit it and then it breaks the needle. Because sometimes breaking the needle is minor and sometimes it's not. And if I'm working on a project, I don't want to take my machine to get it fixed. I want to keep going. So you have to know the limitations of your machines, but you also have to be willing to try some things out. Just because you see a pattern that somebody released and you know that this designer sews on an industrial, so she can sew through anything, and you want to make it, there's no reason why you can't make adjustments to it. Change the interfacing, change, some of the pieces, maybe eliminate something that's going to be heavy. I just kind of want to encourage you to not just buy a pattern, do it exactly the way the pattern says, and then if it doesn't work, get frustrated. Use all the skills that you've learned and all the video tutorials that are out there and use all of that to make it work for you. Now, if I was a new bag maker and I was seeing all of these things that were out there, I would definitely want a heavy duty machine. If I didn't already have one, I'm sure I would be looking to get one when the time came that it fit my budget and I have the space for it, because I know that that heavy duty machine can do so many things that my domestic can't do. And the way that I look at it is this: if I'm putting together a bookshelf and I have a screwdriver, I can put the bookshelf together with a screwdriver. It might not be the easiest task. There might be a few screws that I just can't tighten all the way because I'm just not strong enough. That's a domestic. If I have a drill, it's going to go together so much quicker. I'm going to get those screws in so much faster and better and cleaner. So if you want to keep using a screwdriver, use that. Just know your limitations. But if you want to bump it up and get yourself a drill, just know you're going to make your life a little bit easier. That's probably the best analogy for anyone who doesn't have both or hasn't sewn on both that I can give you. It's a screwdriver versus a drill. They do the same thing, one's just faster and stronger. So that's kind of where we're at. I know this is a random conversation. Maybe it wasn't what you thought we were coming for today. Forgive me for looking down, but I am going to start reading some questions and make sure I didn't miss anything. I will be skipping the weather chat. I think the common thought is we are all cold. I think we're all cold right now. So, Kathy's first question was: I'm shopping for a semi industrial after making a number of bags. That's how it happens. Welcome. Juki versus Janome, any thoughts? I can't give you my thoughts on the machines versus each other because I don't have both. I can tell you that I love mine, but I also think that what you need, and I know I've seen a few of these comments, find a dealer near you. Find somebody that you can buy it from if that's a possibility. I understand that's not possible for everybody in every area. If it is, and you can go sit down and try out that machine, and you know you have somebody that can service it, that you can get things you need, definitely do that. If you're not in that kind of area, maybe you can visit a quilt show or a bag show or something where you can go and try out a bunch of machines. That's always a really fun way to try them out, to say, here's my list. I'm going to go look for these machines and go try them out. I personally think that the heavy duty machines are going to do pretty much the same functions. Excuse me. But a lot of it is going to come down to price. And I do know for a fact that the HD9 is the highest out of the group. So, what is your budget? What are you comfortable buying? Watch some videos if you can't get to a dealer, but definitely try to find the one that fits your budget. I don't think you're going to be unhappy with either. I cannot tell you which one is better because I haven't sewn on both of them side by side and compared them. I have sewn on the Brother PQ 1500 and it felt just like my HD9. It was very similar. I really liked it. It was a great price point. It was at a show, so of course it was discounted, and I really liked the machine. I didn't have any issues with it. So that is why, in my maybe naivety, I don't know, whatever the word is, I think that all the heavy duty machines are going to give you pretty much the same outcome. I don't think that one is the superior one. That's my opinion. I feel differently about domestic machines because some of them I don't care for, and I'm not getting into that topic right now. Some of them I just don't think are for everybody or for bag making, but others would disagree with me. It's just like the car that you drive. I drive a Volkswagen. I can't tell you what my Volkswagen can do compared to your Honda because I don't have a Honda. So I can only talk about what I know. Let me see here. Rose said, I was in the market, had my mindset on the HD9, went in with an open mind. That is the best way to do it. Ended up with a Juki T18, which had to be ordered, so I don't have it yet. Well, Rose, you're going to love it, I'm sure, when it comes in. So, Zena, where do you get your bobbins and needles from for your HD9? I just ordered bobbins not that long ago. Where did I get them from? Hold on. My phone will tell me. Sewing parts, I want to say. I think I got them from Sewing Parts Online. The needles, I order a lot just on Amazon because it's just convenient. But if I'm ordering bobbins, I'll see if they also have the needles. And I use the HLX5 needles. Those are the ones that I like. So, Terry, I'm sorry that you had a rough day yesterday. I too many feels. Feels are a lot. I understand. I've been going through a lot of the feels lately, so I totally get it. So, let me see here. Oh, Vicky is trying out cork for the first time. Awesome. Vicky, I have a bunch of videos if you want to watch, but my number one tip for cork, don't be afraid of it. Treat it like a piece of fabric. It is nothing to worry about. You can iron it, you can cut it, you can sew on it. Very easy, very user friendly. So that is the one that our cork is awesome. I think you're going to fall in love. You might get addicted. It's kind of like a drug. Like you can't just do it once. Susie, what do you think of the Janome M8? I don't think anything of it because I haven't sewn on one. I hear great things, but I can't give you my honest opinion because I haven't sewn on it. And I'm not here to tell you to go buy a machine that I don't know anything about. Um, I'm a Janome lover. That's the way it is. I've only had one in my entire history that I didn't love completely, and it was a very long time ago. So, um, thank you, Cindy. Um, Kathy, those paper patterns were stressful. Yes, because and we're talking about those paper, I'm going way back in the comments. Those paper patterns that you'd look through a catalog and you'd find the number and you'd go to the big drawer and you'd go through and you'd hope they'd have it because sometimes they didn't have it. So then you'd have to go to another store and you'd pull it out and it was all pristine and pretty. And as soon as you touched that tissue paper, it became a wad. It never went back in nicely. They're just a nightmare. No, garment sewing is not for the faint of heart. That is why I don't do it. Now, Chili says, Shelly, sorry, she's Shelly to you guys. She's Chili to me. Um, her first machine was a 1979 Sears Kenmore. Still have it and loved it. This this is when I feel really old when I make comments like this. They don't make them the way they used to. If you have a 1960, 1970, even a 1980 sewing machine, it's probably better than anything you're going to find brand new because they just don't make them that way anymore. They're just amazing. I still have my grandmother's 1960 Singer, and that machine made a lot of bags too. That machine could power through anything. It was amazing. So, Jackie, garment sewing it takes practice and it's your first love. I'm very happy for you. I would love to see some of your garments someday, but me, not going to be a seamstress. That is amazing though. My grandmother was also a seamstress, so I should have learned, but it's one of the things I didn't pick up from her. Knitting is another. So Xena got an HD9 for Christmas. Definitely a little bit of a scare and ready to sew back. Xena, don't be afraid. I did kind of fear it a little bit at first because it's so fast and it's so crazy, like intense, but you are going to love it. I promise you, after like 2 days of sewing on it, you're never going to want to touch another machine once you have that heavy duty machine. So Jackie's had her H9 since 2019. We probably got the same version one. I'm guessing you probably have that one too. And I do love that. That's the one I have at home. Let's see here. Shelly, I have the Baby Lock Accomplished, very similar to the HD9. Now, Shelly can attest to that because she sewed on my HD9 at our retreat. And then she didn't go and buy one. And I'm still friends with her because I don't care what machine you buy. I don't care. She bought it because she has several Baby Locks and had a good relationship. See, and that's the thing. She has a relationship with the dealer, and that's a good thing. That's what we want to build. I don't have a dealer around here to form a relationship with. So that's my unfortunate thing. It just doesn't work. Let me see here. Jackie says the difference between the HD9 and the Juki TL series or the Baby Lock Accomplish, You can't lower the feed dogs in the HD9. That is a wonderful point that I did forget about. And I never lower my feed dogs. I don't do anything that requires that. So, valid point. Totally. I'm glad that you mentioned that for anyone that it would be important for. I don't do anything that I need to. So, I probably never really think about the fact that I can't. Um, let's see here. And yes, the HD9 has a huge bobbin. They are massive. If you have a newer one, make sure that you are ordering the correct bobbin because the version 1 and version 2 have two different bobbins. Just be aware of that. I have different bobbins at home than I do here. If you're getting a new machine now, then you're definitely getting the version 2. But if you have an older machine, just check. The older HD9, the version 1, has the weird half bobbin case. That's the way you could tell the difference. I'm sure somewhere it's written or it has a serial number, but that's how you can tell the difference. Um, so let's see here. See, and Kathy even said, I have a 90s Fock that can sew through everything. I'm telling you, they just don't make those machines. They don't make them anymore. So, and okay, here's another good point from Jackie. When looking for a bag making machine, the key is to test the machine to see if you can use like a thicker poly bonded thread. Again, it all depends. We all have different thread loves. I still use some cotton. I do use a lot of the Saya Swag poly bonded thread. I have a bunch of colors, but sometimes I don't have the right color. I also use the Wawick, Waywack, whatever you want to say, um, Optipop. So those I have tested on my domestic. That's when I almost gave Amy a heart attack. They work, but the machine I feel is stressed out by it. So, what kind of thread do you want to use? Is that a deal breaker for you? Because if you're going and buying a domestic and you want to use heavy threads, make sure you talk to the dealer and make sure you can. Heavy duty machines and industrial machines take different threads and can handle different threads. Um, Etta, thank you. She's joining us. She's a new joiner and she bought Camp Snaps. I'm sorry I influenced you to do that, but also you're welcome. You're going to love it. Florida Linda is glad that I'm using my HD9 and so am I because I do love that machine. So we will address things in future patterns if there's going to be something that you need to do to make it domestic friendly. I'm going to do the best that I can. So, let's see here. Yes, the reds. Let's see. I tested the HD9 and Juki at my dealer, and the micro lifter made a difference in the amount of layers I could sew. Okay, very interesting. Yes, the Accomplish is definitely lower priced than the HD9. Um, why'd you jump? I wasn't done. Let me see here. Okay, there we go. My computer just said we're going to the end of the comments, and I wasn't ready. So let's see. Um, your baby lock Jane, which I'm not familiar with that, did not like thicker threads. I understand. If Jane is a more of a domestic, I can understand that. Cynthia, I'm so glad you enjoyed the mystery bag. We are doing another one. I know it's far away at this point, but we are doing another one at the end of this year, and maybe we'll do another one in the middle of the year. Everybody's liking it, so we might do another sew along. Oh, Connie, thank you so much. That's very sweet of you. Um, I I'm an awesome person. Connie said so, so thank you. All right. So Rhonda bought a Singer Heavy Duty for $200. Is that the gray machine? I think that's the gray Singer. So what do you think of it? Because I see a lot of debate in bag groups about that machine. You either love it or you stay far away from it. So Rhonda, I'm curious. Are you loving your Singer Heavy Duty? I'd love to hear from you because I'd love to hear from somebody here that says yes, I love it or no, I don't. Um, Let's see. And yes, Beth, test driving is super important. If we're investing in a machine and something that's that expensive, just like a car, you're not just going to go to a lot and be like, I'll take that car. Just give me the keys. That's the one I want. You want to make sure it fits you, it fits what you want it to do. So, dealers and shows are the best places to go and test drive. It's a very important thing because usually what happens, just like with a car, once it's off the lot, it depletes in value. So you go buy a machine, you hate it, and now you want to resell it. You're not going to be able to get the money you got into it. And then you're also wasting your time and your energy test the machines out. Make sure that you're going to like it before you go and purchase it. I know it's exciting. We get it in our head. We're like, let's go online right now and buy a machine. And then you get it and you're like, this is not for me. And that happens. There's a I will not say because I don't want to offend anybody. There is one particular brand of sewing machines that I'm not a huge fan of. Every single time I have somebody in class with this brand of machine, they seem to have problems. But I have friends that have these machines that rave about them and will tell everybody to buy this machine, especially this one machine. I know that if I had that machine, I would not be happy. So you can't just take someone's word for it. I can tell you how much I love my HD9. You might buy it and hate it. So I don't want you to just like, you just get it and then you're like, ugh, this machine was a waste of my money. So test drive them for sure. Let's see here. I mean, we talked about that. Teresa had an HD9, was afraid to use it. Well, I understand. It's I think it's because they're so fast and it's just like it's intimidating. It's this big hunk of metal and it's like, oh God. And that's how I felt sewing on an industrial before I went to Lauren's studio. And then I sat down and I was like, why was I afraid of this? This is not hard. Like this is actually not a hard machine to use. So we got to get past our fear, and that's easier said than done. Janelle, throw those paper patterns out. I give you permission because I threw all of mine out and I'll tell you, whew, it was a relief. Get rid of those old patterns. If you're not using them, chuck them. So let's see here. Oh, I'm down to the end of the comments. I did it. And thank you. That's very sweet of you. Teaching is my number one. It's always been something I've enjoyed, even though I was sweating the first time I ever taught. I had no idea what I was doing. It kind of fell in and I really liked it. And that's that it I'm glad to feel it's nice to feel appreciated. It's nice when someone says you're a good teacher and you're doing a good job because we will always second guess ourselves from here to the rest of our lives. It's just the way that it is. So, yes, and Jackie, that is a very good point. Let me kind of add to what I said. Jackie said when you buy a sewing machine from a show, the dealer is not local and your machine warranty is different. Yes, absolutely it is. So, I bought my first HD9 from a dealer in Texas. I don't live in Texas, and I understand that. But also, I knew what I wanted, and I was in love with that machine, and I was taking it home one way or another. And I don't have Janome dealers around here that I can get what I want. Um, I have Janome dealers. I don't care for them. So that's a hard thing. And I'm sure some of you understand. It's that shop that you just don't want to walk into, even though they have what you want and you cringe. But it is, shows are a great way to test things out. And if you're happy with it and if you're handy or you have a handy spouse, like I do, my husband's a mechanic. Anything that has a motor, he's comfortable fixing. So my domestic machines, because they're computerized, I don't like him touching just because there's so many finicky parts and it's not as comfortable for him. I can get those cleaned and serviced anywhere. It's when I need a part that's a problem. My mechanical machine, my HD9, I don't need to take it anywhere. He fixes it, he cleans it, he does all the stuff, and it needs less maintenance than your computerized machines. Computerized machines are finicky. Once they have an issue, they kind of get stuck on it, and sometimes they don't want to do what you want them to do. Where mechanical machines that don't have all the same bits and pieces, they're easier to kind of deal with. So, um, oh, you guys, you're so sweet. Thank you. Oh, Pat, I'm not organized and sometimes not logical, but thank you for thinking that I am. I've tricked all of you. I am a disorganized mess and my logical abilities are limited. I have some common sense, but there are other days that I do not. And I also do not have a good memory, which is really hard. But that's a whole other thing. And yes, so Nancy said she has a Juki TL 2010 and it works wonderfully now that the tension is correct. That is probably the one thing that I will complain about when it comes to mechanical machines. There isn't a computer in there to help you with your tension. There isn't something that kind of monitors it for you. So sometimes, depending on thread, thickness, needle, all that, you also have to play with your tension. And that's something that not everyone is comfortable with. Just remember, if you want, write down the settings that they are, or look in your book and see what the settings are. play around with it. And if it doesn't work, go back to the standard settings. It's something that when we were doing a lot of the clear vinyl and making the clear vinyl boxy bags, people would complain because they couldn't get their tension right. Or not even that, they would complain because the tension wasn't right. And I would ask, did you adjust it? Well, no, I don't want to do that. I don't know how to do that. I was helping Kathy from K Dill Handmade. She's a good friend of mine. She has a fun channel if you want to go follow her too. She was teaching a class in So Magical Orlando, and they were doing a jelly vinyl and clear vinyl, like little, I think it was it her arena bag, Nuga bag? I forget which one. I think it was the Nuga. It's a small bag, but with all those clear vinyl and jelly layers, people were having a horrible time with their machines. The people that were adjusting were the people that were willing to try and fix their tension. The people that were struggling were the ones that didn't want to touch the buttons. And you can't buy this machine and then just not want to touch anything. You have to play around with it. So, hmm, you had a problem with threading your HG9. And yeah, and you were having a problem with the bobbin case. I'm glad that your dealer took care of you. Threading the HG9 was a bit of a challenge in the beginning because it's not drastically different in some ways from a domestic, but it's different enough that I was like, what am I doing here? But there's a diagram, and I just had to like get past it. I also learned how to thread the industrial when I was at Lawrence, which threads similarly to the HG9. So I was like, oh, I have experience. I can do this. The bobbin, on the other hand, that was a totally different experience. But, you know, be willing to learn. Open your mind to learning, and I think the world of bag making will change for you. So, I think that was everything. I'm glad we got through this. I'm sorry if this was not what you were expecting and I didn't answer the questions you were hoping to. Maybe someday when I'm wealthy and I keep asking for this cuz I know I would make a really good rich person, maybe then I will get all of the heavy duty machines and I'll buy one of each and I'll try it out and I'll show you. Until that happens, it's probably not going to work. I'm probably not going to acquire more machines. But I just, if somebody wants to give me a chance to be rich, I know I would be a really good rich person. I know this in my heart. So yes, Teresa, the threading on the HG9, you know what it is? It's not the normal like up and over part. It's that second little middle part where you have to go through that one hook and you're like, am I really going through this twice? Did I do something wrong? And then my thread gets stuck on the screw sometimes. And once you get past that, it's not bad, but it's strange because you're just like, are you sure this is right? It's odd. So, all right. Let's see. So, what I also can tell you, as far as like on my channel, if you have an HD9, because that's again what I have, I do have a threading video. Probably thread mine partially incorrectly, but it works for me. My thread doesn't break. And I also talk about the bobbin. So if that is something that you are struggling with, the video has three options. It has me teaching Eric how to make it, which is just for fun, or thread it. It has me threading it talking, and then me threading it without talking. So if you want to watch that video, it's kind of broken up into three sections and it definitely helps. Um, do you tie threads together when changing colors? I used to. I used to do that when I was afraid to unthread it and not get it threaded correctly. Kind of like if you have a serger, you know how scary it is to unthread a serger because you're like, I have four spools of thread and I might not ever get them back in. So I used to do it that way. I would tie it and then just gently pull it through. I don't anymore because I actually feel comfortable threading the machine. But in the beginning, absolutely, I did that. So oh, I intimidated. I didn't intimidate you. I encouraged you to buy a machine. I'm sorry, Zena, or you're welcome. So, well, you know what? I'm just passing it along because after watching Lauren sew on those industrials for all these years and then sewing on one, I'm like, am I being like pushed in that direction? Do I need an industrial now? So I'm doing that for you with the heavy duty machine. So, because I mentioned Lauren, it made me think of something else I wanted to tell you at the beginning that I forgot. If you are interested in taking classes with me at her studio and getting an opportunity to sew on an industrial. You do not have to have experience sewing on an industrial. There will be people there to help you. And also, I promise you, it is not as scary as you might think. Um, if you are interested in that, my classes will be up for sale on March 10th. I am teaching at her shop on May 4th and 5th. My ears started ringing. Someone's talking about me. I will be teaching May 4th and 5th. I will be getting information to her soon. So hopefully she'll have the little teaser up of what I'm teaching. But a lot of the classes, actually, I think all of the classes have been 2 days. Day one is cutting, day two is sewing. I'm going to do mine differently because I have to, because that's who I am. We are getting 2 days of sewing, two patterns, and I'm cutting all the kits for you. So, yes, it's a surprise. It will be a little bit of a surprise to you, but I always bring extra options. I never bring the exact amount that's needed. I always bring extra, so you have lots to choose from. So I will be pre-cutting every one of those kits. They will be ready to sit down and sew. You don't have to do any cutting for my classes, and those again are on sale the March 10th, and May 4th and 5th will be the dates that I teach. I saw something about Florida. Do I ever come to Florida to teach? I have been to Florida to teach many times. Um, I will be there vending next month. I cannot even believe it's next month in Daytona. I'm not teaching because I didn't get any classes this time. I will be vending there. As far as teaching, I was in the Villages a couple years ago, and I may be going back there. We're talking about maybe having me come back. But if you are part of a guild and want to invite me to come down and teach, you can have them send me an email and I can talk to them about, what I do and what we can set up. I don't have any other places in Florida that I generally teach at except So Magical. Did I just forget what that was called? SME, So Magical Expo, which is in Orlando, Kissimmee. So I will be more than likely teaching. I did submit my teacher application. Kayla is the one that wanted me to teach a certain pattern. So I'm guessing I will be teaching, but I don't have that information yet because SME is not until October in Florida. But I definitely will be down there. And I saw a couple more questions. Oh, here we go. Pat says, random comment. I tried HTV for the first time in a pouch and it is wonderful. I would have never thought I could use it with just my home iron. Thank you. You are welcome. I cannot take credit for the idea. I think the place I saw it was Lynn's Handmade. I think or it could have been Okla Roots, but I saw people using it and I was like, well, I need to do that. And it is pretty awesome that you can use your home iron. You don't have to have a t-shirt press. Am I the only one that likes the sounds of some machines? No, I actually find it very soothing. I love listening to the machine. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of like white noise. So no, you're not the only one. Let's see here. All right. The Villages are close. Well, Zena, if it works out, I will let you guys know and I will get it on my website for sure. You took some time off during AQS to come shop. Well, that's so exciting, Krista. Very exciting. I think we do need to start bag guilds, Janelle. I think that would be an amazing thing because if we have quilt guilds, why can't we have a bag guild? Imagine that we got like a once a month treat to talking about bags and showing off our bags, like doing our show and tell and having bag makers come and talk. We should definitely do that. That would be an amazing thing. So, oh, -43 wind chill. Okay, Carol, we don't need that kind of negative talk around here. The Sewing Expo in Lakeland. That's in February, isn't it? Is that the one that a lot of people do AQS and then February after? Have I been to Road to California? Yes, I have. I will not be going back to Road to California. I did that for God, I don't. I'm gonna say 4 or 5 years. I drove by myself all the way across the country to California. That is not fun. It is a lot of alone time with yourself. Um, I'm not planning a lot of stuff on the West Coast because I don't really do a lot of shows anymore. Eric, my sweet husband, is the one that decided we were going to try a quilt show again this year. And until I know how it goes, I'm not ready to sign up for any more. And until he retires, which is actually kind of soon, we're probably not going to be venturing too far away. Florida's a 19-hour drive for us. So California, that's several days. So probably not in the near future. I was there before. Connie, when am I coming to Minnesota? Invite me. I'll come stay at your house, Connie. So, and Linda, that's pretty normal. The quilt guild sometimes they have money, but they are kind of cheap sometimes. So I totally understand. Janelle is like set to make this bag making guild. We're gonna have it. And yes, of course you can wear I'm a bag lady shirt. Um, Cindy, I would love to come back to Texas. Eric and I love it there. There isn't anything for us at the moment. I am not discounting International Quilt Festival completely, but again, I have to kind of dip my toes in to shows again. This is not something I do. This is not on my roster anymore. Like this is what I did too many times a year. Now I don't. So, I will come back to Texas. I just don't know when. And trust me, Shelly and Trisha are also on that. They want me back too. It's in the Lakeland show is in March. Okay. I will look into it, and if this goes well, and I'm hoping that it goes well, I'm hoping that we have a great time in Daytona. It will definitely make me ready to try other things. And I would love to do some like sew expo type of things more than quilt shows. Sometimes being the only person somewhere, like the not the only person, but the only like bag heavy supplier at a show, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they don't expect you and it doesn't always work the way that you want. But sewing expos do sound a little bit more inviting. And Shelly, I know you're bummed that they're not coming back to Texas. That is something that unfortunately we can't control, but who knows for the future. Kayla does things and sometimes we don't know what's coming and she could do something that we don't she could be planning something we don't know. So I don't do so Vicky, I have not been to the Roanoke quilt show because I really don't do quilt shows anymore. If you're new here or if you forgot, 2015 all the way to the very beginning of 2020 until COVID shut us down, that's all that I did. I did QuiltCon, I did Houston, I did Road to California. I was all over the place. I did 15 to 20 shows a year on average. It happened by accident. It was not my intention, but every time you're at a show, you pick up another one. It was fun. I had a great time. It was profitable. It was a great way to meet people. It definitely set me up to be successful after COVID because I already had an audience to come to my website, but it was physically and mentally exhausting. I have back issues and they were not being helped by standing on concrete. It's also it's very intense when you are not at your own business and trying to worry about inventory. Plus, the reason I have a YouTube channel now is because I couldn't have one back then. So I'm flexible. I'm willing to try some new things. I'm going back to Daytona, which is a huge thing for me because we haven't been there. It was the last show we did before everything shut down for COVID. And I want to try it again. I want to see how it goes. I know I can't judge based off of just one show, but at the same time, I don't know if quilt shows are the place that I want to be or should be. I'm trying to figure a lot of things out. And now that I have a YouTube channel and we do our Friday lives, I don't want to not do this. I don't want to be gone so much that we don't do Friday lives all the time or at all. I don't want to not have time to make videos. I definitely have shifted um the focus of my business, and I'm not saying anything is a no, but I don't want to lose focus on what I'm doing right now. And I have some cool ideas that I want to try out that I think are cool for this year for videos. Some things that I want to try or catch up on that I haven't been able to. And the more I'm away, the less I have time to do that. So as of right now, and I don't know if anything else will be added, we will be at the AQS show in Daytona in February. I will be at So Magical Tennessee at the end of August, beginning of September, and So Magical Orlando in October. I don't have any other shows lined up. If anything changes, I'll definitely let you guys know, but I don't have any other shows lined up. I have other things like the cruise, teaching at So Whatever Studio, things here, but I don't have any other shows lined up. So I would love to see So Magical come further north. on the East Coast for us. I would love to see that. Kayla has been bugged about it so much that I'm hoping she'll plan something. I don't know if she is or not right now. But no, Cindy, I will give up you coming to Texas for YouTube. I want to be able to do everything, but I'm one person. And in case you didn't know this, I just keep getting older every year. And that means my body also doesn't want to do certain things anymore. And lifting all of those heavy bins was a lot different before I turned 40. Every decade changes my body, and this one has not been great. I don't know if I have any upper arm strength anymore. So all right. And yes, Teresa, you are right. This will be the last comment I read, and then we're going to call it a day. But there is a big crossover between quilters and bag making, and that's kind of what helped me out, was because I was doing quilt shows and there was a great crossover, and I was also pulling in all those quilters going, you have all the stuff already. You just need a little bit of hardware, a piece of cork, grab a pattern. You have all the things you need. Use the supplies you have. Like come to our world. And now there's a whole bag making world that never existed before, which is, it's so cool to me, because if you told me, pattern designer in 2011, someday there's going to be this whole bag making community and you're going to be part of it, I'd be like, no way. This is just like a little part of a sewing community. I'm blown away by the fact that we have so many things that we have. We have so many resources and tutorials and websites and just so many cool things. So I think it's a very cool place and I want to stay in it. So so you guys are planning all these shows and places for me to go. I will go to as many as I can, but just remember, every time I leave, the YouTube channel suffers. So I think we're going to call it a day. Barb will be back next week. I'm going out to dinner tonight to celebrate Eric's birthday. He will be the big 5-0 on Sunday. And we're going out for a fancy dinner and drinks tonight. So that's why I'm wearing my fancy shirt. I'm already ready for dinner, and it's 12 o'clock. So I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. We will see you next week. And hopefully, if I get my act together, you guys will be getting a new video shortly and another one to follow. So thank you, everybody. I will see you soon. Goodbye.